She stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, staring at the pile of dirty dishes stacked in the sink. "I'm not your maid. Clean it yourself," she snapped, her voice sharp and cold. I just looked at her for a moment, feeling that familiar ache in my chest. We'd been married for 4 years, and in the beginning, she used to love making dinner together, cleaning up as we laughed about little things. But lately, everything I did seemed to annoy her. If I left my shoes by the door, she complained. If I forgot to fold the blanket on the couch, she rolled her eyes. That day, though, something inside me just switched off. I didn't argue back. I didn't try to reason with her or explain that I'd been working 12-hour shifts all week and barely had the energy to stand, let alone scrub the entire kitchen. I simply said, "Sure," and walked away. She looked surprised when I didn't fight back, but she didn't say anything else. She grabbed her purse, left for work, and slammed the door behind her. As I sat on the edge of our bed that morning, staring at the floor, I realized I had reached a breaking point. I was tired. Tired of feeling like a burden in my own home. Tired of feeling like everything I did was never enough for her. That week, I stopped picking up after myself completely. I left my plates where I ate, dropped my socks on the living room floor, and didn't touch the overflowing trash bin. I just went to work, came home, and slept. The house slowly turned into a mess of plates, clothes, crumbs, and wrappers scattered everywhere. But I didn't care anymore. She was away for a work conference that whole week. She barely texted me, only once asking if I was surviving on pizza rolls, with a laughing emoji. But when she finally came home that Friday night, suitcase rolling behind her, heels clicking on the floor, and pushed open the door to our apartment, the smell hit her first. Her eyes widened as she stepped inside and saw what I had done. Or rather, what I hadn't done. And in that moment I saw her face change in a way that told me she instantly regretted ever saying she wasn't my maid. Because now, the real story was just about to begin. She dropped her suitcase with a loud thud and covered her nose with her hand. The kitchen was a disaster. Plates stacked up so high that some had toppled over onto the counter. Food scraps were rotting in the sink, giving off a sour smell that made her gag. The trash bin was overflowing, with empty boxes and cans scattered around it on the floor. She stepped into the living room and saw clothes, socks, and empty chip bags littering the couch and carpet. I was sitting there in the middle of it all, in my work uniform, staring blankly at the TV that wasn't even turned on. She blinked at me, shocked, like she couldn't process what she was seeing. "What the hell happened here?" she asked, her voice trembling between anger and disbelief. I didn't answer. I just looked at her and shrugged. Inside I felt numb. For days I had come home, tired and aching, and just let everything stay where it fell. Each time I walked past the dirty dishes or the trash, I felt a strange sense of relief, because for once, I wasn't the only one suffering. I was tired of being treated like a servant in my own home. If she wanted a clean house, she could clean it. Wasn't that what she said? She stepped over a pile of laundry on her way to the kitchen, mumbling under her breath about how disgusting everything was. I watched her open the fridge, only to slam it shut when the smell of spoiled food hit her. "Seriously, what is wrong with you?" she snapped, glaring at me. But I just sat there quietly. In that silence, I could feel all the years of small resentments rising in my chest. The times she belittled my job, the times she rolled her eyes when I tried to tell her about my day, the times she acted like I was an inconvenience in her perfect little life. She started picking things up angrily, throwing dirty socks into the laundry basket and muttering curses under her breath. But the house was beyond a quick clean-up. She looked completely overwhelmed, and for the first time in a long while, I saw something different in her eyes, a flicker of fear, maybe even regret. But I didn't say a word. I just watched her, thinking to myself, this was only the beginning. Because what I planned to do next would finally show her exactly how it felt to be unappreciated. She spent the next hour cleaning in silence. I could hear her breathing heavily as she scrubbed the counters and gathered the trash bags by the door. Every now and then, She would glance at me with a look that mixed anger with confusion, as if she couldn't understand why I wasn't helping her. But I just sat there, staring at my hands resting on my lap. I was so used to picking up after both of us that seeing her struggle felt strange. Almost like I was watching someone else's life unfold in front of me. Later that night, after she had taken a shower and changed into her pajamas, she sat on the edge of the bed beside me. Her hair was still damp, and her face looked tired in the dim light. "Why didn't you clean up?" she asked softly this time, no anger left in her voice. I didn't answer right away. I could feel the tension in the air between us, thick and heavy. Finally I said, "You told me to clean up after myself." "So I did. I just stopped cleaning up after you." She frowned, looking away. I could tell she was thinking back to all the little things she had left lying around before she left for her work trip. Her makeup wipes on the table, her coffee mugs on the nightstand, her hair ties scattered all over the bathroom counter. She never noticed them because I always picked them up without a word. That's how it had been for years. I took care of those small messes while working long shifts to pay rent and bills. And now that I had stopped, she was seeing the reality of it all. The next morning, I woke up early and went to work without saying goodbye. Throughout the day, I kept thinking about our life together. How did we end up here? There was a time I would come home excited to see her, to cook dinner with her, to share a quiet evening. But lately, everything felt cold. At lunch break, I scrolled through old photos of us laughing at the beach, holding hands at family gatherings, smiling with tired eyes after moving into this apartment. It felt like I was looking at strangers. That night, when I came home, she was sitting on the couch in silence. And in that silence, I realized neither of us really knew what was coming next. She didn't even look up when I walked through the door that evening. The lights were off, and the only glow came from the TV screen playing some random cooking show she wasn't really watching. I set my bag down quietly and sat on the far end of the couch. The smell of cleaning spray still lingered in the air, mixed with a faint sourness that hadn't fully left the apartment despite her efforts. After a few minutes of silence, she finally spoke. "Is this how it's going to be now?" Her voice was low and tired. I could hear the defeat in it, but also a hint of something else, fear maybe. Fear that things between us were breaking beyond repair. I didn't respond. My eyes were fixed on the TV, but my mind was replaying every moment of the past week, every time I left my plate on the table, every time I walked past the overflowing trash, every time I saw her face in my thoughts, rolling her eyes at me or calling me lazy. Each memory only made my chest feel heavier. She turned the TV off and sat facing me. "I don't understand why you're doing this," she said. "You've never been like this before. You've always helped." Her words stung. Helped. As if cleaning our home, working overtime to pay for groceries and bills, and doing all the small unnoticed things was just me helping her, like a favor she could dismiss whenever she wanted. I clenched my fists to keep my voice calm. "I'm tired," I said finally. "I'm tired of feeling like a guest here. I'm tired of feeling like I'm not enough." She looked at me with wide eyes, as if hearing this for the first time. But before she could say anything back, my phone buzzed on the table. It was a message from my friend, asking if I'd confirmed my booking. She glanced at the screen and frowned. "Booking for what?" she asked quietly. I didn't answer. I stood up, picked up my phone, and walked towards the bedroom without looking back at her. I could feel her eyes following me, searching for answers, feeling that something bigger was happening here. And as I closed the door behind me, I knew she had no idea what was about to come next, but soon she would. I lay on the bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the muffled sounds of her moving around in the living room. My phone buzzed again. It was my friend, reminding me about the spare room he had prepared. He'd offered it to me months ago when I first told him how things were getting bad at home, but I never thought I'd actually need it. Until now. After a while, she opened the bedroom door and walked in slowly. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. "What's the booking for?" she asked again, her voice trembling. I sat up and looked at her. For the first time, I noticed how small she looked in her oversized t-shirt, hair tied back messily, fear clear on her face. But something in me had already hardened. "I'm leaving for a while," I said calmly. "I've booked to stay with a friend." Her mouth fell open. "You're leaving? Just like that?" Her voice broke, and tears welled up in her eyes. "You can't just leave because of a stupid fight about cleaning," she shouted, but her voice cracked mid-sentence. I shook my head slowly. "It's not about the cleaning. It's about respect. It's about feeling like I matter in this house. And I don't feel that anymore." She sank onto the edge of the bed, sobbing into her hands. For a moment, I almost reached out to comfort her out of habit, but I stopped myself. I needed to stay strong. Then, as she wiped her tears, her phone buzzed on the bedside table. She glanced at it, and her entire body froze. Her eyes darted to me, wide with panic. "It's my boss," she whispered. "He said, the office is shutting down next month. My job. I might lose it." I stared at her silently. The news hit her like a train. Just a week ago, she was out at a conference, laughing in selfies with her colleagues, acting like her life was perfect. Now she was sitting here, terrified of losing the very thing that gave her pride and security. And in that moment, I saw her walls crumbling. But even then, a part of me felt cold. Because deep down, I knew this changed everything. Not just for her, but for what I was planning next. And as she sat there shaking, I realized this was only going to get darker before it was over. She sat there trembling, clutching her phone to her chest as if it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Her eyes were glazed over, staring at nothing, tears rolling down her cheeks silently. I watched her for a moment, feeling a mixture of pity and emptiness inside me. Finally, I spoke. "I'm sorry about your job. But you need to understand, this isn't just about you losing work. This is about us losing each other." She looked up at me, her lips shaking. "Please don't leave," she whispered. "I know I've been harsh. But I need you here. I can't lose you too." Her words made my chest tighten. For a moment, old memories flashed before my eyes, her laughing under the rain on our first date, hugging me tightly the day I got my job promotion, falling asleep on my chest after long tiring days. A part of me wanted to stay. But another part, the part that had been hurt over and over again, knew I needed to walk away to save what was left of me. "I'm leaving for a while," I said again, standing up and picking up my small overnight bag. "I don't know how long. But I can't keep doing this. I need to find myself again." She broke down crying, sobs echoing in the quiet room. As I walked towards the door, she ran after me and grabbed my arm. "Please, please don't go," she cried. I gently pulled her hands away. "I'll call you when I'm ready to talk," I said softly. Just as I reached for the door handle, she whispered something that made me freeze. "I'm pregnant." My heart stopped. I turned back slowly, staring at her in shock. Tears were streaming down her face as she clutched her stomach. "I found out yesterday," she said in a broken voice. "I didn't know how to tell you." I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. Everything inside me twisted into knots. Part of me wanted to run back to her, hold her, promise I'd never leave. But another part of me, the one that had been numb for so long, whispered that this changed everything, and yet it changed nothing about how broken we were. As she stood there sobbing, I realized this was the twist life had thrown at us. The real question was, what was I going to do now? I stood there frozen, staring at her, as she cried softly in front of me. My chest felt heavy with 1,000 emotions fighting inside. The anger, the pain, the betrayal, and now, the fear and responsibility that came with knowing we were going to be parents. I walked back towards her slowly. She looked up at me with tear-filled eyes, desperate for comfort, for forgiveness, for love. I gently placed my hand on her shoulder and let out a long, shaky breath. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked quietly. She sniffled, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "I didn't want to burden you," she whispered. "You already seemed so distant, And I thought, maybe you didn't want this. Her words cut deeper than I expected. All this time, she had been holding on to this secret alone, just like I had been holding on to all my silent hurts. In that moment, I realized we were both guilty of hiding too much from each other. I sat down beside her on the couch. We stayed like that for a long time, the room silent except for the hum of the fridge in the kitchen. Finally, I spoke. I don't know what's going to happen to us. I'm still hurt. I'm still angry. But I want to be there for my child. I'll never walk away from that responsibility. She nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks again. I promise I'll change, she whispered. I'll do better. For you, and for our baby. I didn't say anything back. I didn't promise that things would go back to how they used to be, because we both knew too much damage had been done. But deep down, I felt a small flicker of hope. Maybe this was life's way of forcing us to see each other again, beyond the pride and the fights. Maybe this was our chance to start over, not as the careless couple we once were, but as two people learning to love each other with honesty and patience. That night I didn't leave. We sat together on the couch, holding hands in silence, as if both afraid to break whatever fragile peace was growing between us. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But as I rested my hand gently over her stomach, feeling the warmth of new life growing there, I realized that sometimes, life breaks you apart, just so you can build something stronger in the end.